Dobrodošli, dobar dan. We're gonna, just in a couple of minutes, the Bina sisters that came from Minnesota for the occasion are gonna show us how to make apple strudel, which is one of the traditional Slovenian pastries. Apple strudel is not typical only for Slovenia, but also for Austria and Croatia, our neighbor countries. Our other neighbor countries are Italy and Hungary. So, I don't know if you know this, Slovenia is shaped like a chicken. So here's the beak and the head and the 2 feet. We have 28 miles of the coastline. We are only 2 million nation. We speak Slovenian. And if you have a chance on Tuesday at 6 p.m. over here, just come. We're going to have a free class of Slovene language just to learn a few phrases and everything. So 6 o'clock here on Tuesday. It's one-time opportunity, okay? So just appear here and you're going to learn a few phrases. If you travel or if you just want to boast about something that you know, just come here. So now I'm talking too much again. So let me introduce you. This is Rosie, Nadi, and Bina. They're all sisters from a family of 12 and from Minnesota. Yes. Yay.
We're so happy to be here. We've just been having a lot of fun. This is our 3rd year here. And just to give you a clue where Nadi's from in Minnesota, we grew up in Gilbert, Minnesota, which is on the Iron Range. It's about 60 miles north of Duluth. And Nadi now lives in Eden Prairie. She is a suburb of the Twin Cities. Bina lives half of the year in Ely, Minnesota, which is the gateway to the Boundary Waters. And then the other half she lives in Florida, the Lucky Gal. And I live in Aurora, Minnesota, which is about 12 miles east of Gilbert. So I didn't move too far. So what they're doing is they're prepping our table. We just have a pastry cloth on here. You can use a sheet or a tablecloth, whatever you have. And we have a smaller table than we use at home. We use our dining room table, but this is a little bit smaller, so our dough is going to overhang a little bit. And the dough we made a few hours ago, because this is a dough that has to stretch. It has no yeast. It just has 3 tablespoons of oil, 1 1/4 cup of water. It's got 4 cups of flour, 1 egg, 1 teaspoon salt, and 1 teaspoon vinegar. And we use distilled water rather than soft water. We've just had better luck because the dough it's a stretchy dough. They're going to be rolling it out a little bit, I think, and then we're waiting for the rolling pin. They're going to roll it out just a little bit. And then you'll see that they're going to use their hands, and this dough is going to stretch. And it's going to be paper thin. It's like, well, how thin? If we put it has to be as thin as if you put a newspaper underneath, you could read the paper. It's going to be kind of like phyllo dough, real papery and thin when they get done. You're also going to pour a little bit of butter on top. You can never have enough butter, but if you want flaky dough, you have to have butter. And if you have a pastry brush, you use a pastry brush, she found it, but you can use, at home you just smear it with your hands, you know. Pastry brush, and the warm butter helps the dough stretch. If your house is cold, the dough will not stretch. So somebody opens the door on a winter day when you're stretching dough, you'll be hollering. And Nadi's son was always so happy when Nadi would be making strudel. He'd go, "Hey Mom, is this a free swear day?" Because you get a hole sometimes in there, and then it's like it doesn't stretch as well. Sometimes you get a hole in the middle, and then you can't really put any filling on it. So you want to be really careful. We have a warm day. It's fairly humid, so it's okay. So it's going to be a good stretching day, and you're going to see it just stretches so nice. And you don't need 2 people to do this. You can do this by yourself. And actually, some of you have gone through the line on that back table. I think there still are a lot of recipes, and we have different flavored recipes to choose from. We have the traditional apple strudel. There's a blueberry lemon that I think is our favorite. We have made rhubarb strawberry strudel, which is excellent. There's cheese strudel where you would use, a cottage cheese or cream cheese. There's pineapple strudel, whatever filling that you want to put in the inside. But you see how papery thin now it's getting here? And they're just using their hands, going underneath. In the directions, sometimes they tell you to use your knuckles because they've done this enough that they know the kind of pressure to use the top of their hands. But if you're not sure, using your knuckles, you're going to have less chance that it is going to break.
My strudel never does this. I'm hearing it. No, it is your strudel. My strudel always does this.
We really had a good day today. No holes at all.
I didn't even have to swear.
Yeah, we didn't, it's just really going very well. But if you did get a hole on the end, it really doesn't matter because it's going to get all rolled up anyways. No one really is going to know that it had a hole or not. So, not to get too frustrated.
But you have to feel what the day is like today. This is like perfect.
Yeah, it has to be warm. And even if your table is cold,
Up there,
put
I
a
got
little heater underneath it so your table's warm because that dough will not stretch. And we did a fundraiser at our church too, and we were making dough in the church basement. It's always cold. So we ended up bringing heaters in there to get more, keep it a lot warmer down there. Now, with what Bina is doing now, she's cutting off the thicker edges. Some people like that big dough in their strudel, and they don't cut that off. We do. We don't like that thicker dough, but whatever you want. And then we usually make a few strudels at a time, so we save the ends, and we re-knead it and rest it. And then you can make a smaller strudel, or we even do like a meat filling with potato, kind of like we call it a pasty. It's potatoes, carrots, rutabaga, and hamburger, and roll it up. And it's a great meal. Or I've even done a stromboli filling in a strudel. And so it's Italian sausage, green peppers, so it doesn't always have to be sweet, but you have that good flaky dough rather than a pie crust dough. So it's much better. So she's getting this ready now. We cut up the apples earlier, and to the apples, they're going to add 1 cup breadcrumbs. That helps absorb some of the juices. Add the 1 cup.
That's a half a cup.
She's measuring.
And this is another half a cup. So that's 1 cup.
And then she's going to add about a teaspoon of cinnamon. You can add a little bit more if you like the cinnamon flavor, but a teaspoon's plenty. And also a cup of sugar. We used Granny Smith apples because they're tart and they peel really nice and they're good firm apples. Our helper here too, if we didn't introduce Mary Lou Volk, she's from Alabama but originally from Ely, Minnesota, and she is very active with the Slovenian Union of America. She's on the board. She writes a lot of the articles for this ADIA, so she's assisting and helping us today. So we're kind of adopting her as our sister to help with the prep here. So Bina's just mixing everything up. We find that if we do that in a bowl, everything's evenly done. But in the directions, it probably doesn't tell you that way. It probably tells put your layer of breadcrumbs, put your apples, and put your sugar, mixed cinnamon sugar on top of that. But we find that we mix it all together right before. It really helps that everything is completely covered. And they're going to put the apples in about 1/3 of the dough, not the whole thing. They're going to spread it out on there. And that was about 3 pounds of apples. 2.5 to 3 pounds of apples, so about 5 good-sized Granny Smith apples. Fill that in. Okay. And then we have a lot of overhang, but on a regular dining room table, you wouldn't have quite this much overhang. And she's going to put some butter on this side. That helps keep the dough much more flakier when it bakes and when it's done. So, like I said earlier, we're like Paula Deen, the more butter, the better. Just put them over here. Yeah, so. Be very tasty. And this butter that we haven't seen this, we don't get this Irish butter, but this is the Irish butter. It has a little taste. So Nadi and Bina have to coordinate and work together here. They're going to take the overhang, put it over the top, and this is the trick. Now watch what they do with the sheet, the tablecloth. They're going to work in synchronization, hopefully, and they're not going to lift too much, just kind of roll it over, roll it back, roll it over, like magic. Pull it back, try not to have any wrinkles in it, and it's easy to do by yourself too. Looks like it's hard, it looks complicated. Believe me, if we can do this, any of you can do this. So now they have, because they had the overhang here, you can tear it. Just gonna tuck that in, and then they usually make a loop or an S. I teach some community ed classes. I teach strudel making class, and sometimes this is such a big, too much for a family. So we cut them in 3 strips the length of the pad, and then we tell our students to freeze them, and then they can just take one out at a time. And when you bake, you bake it, you freeze it raw like this, and then you take it out, you don't thaw it out. Bake it frozen for 1 hour and 15 minutes. If we bake this now, we only have to bake it for 1 hour, but frozen you have to add another 15 minutes. But don't let it thaw out. And before they bake it, guess what? They put more water. And then you have to let it cool, so it makes it easier to cut. But it looks more complicated than it is. It's very tasty. I think they'll have some samples. They'll be bringing out more samples for you to taste. And we'll answer any questions if anybody has any questions or has made strudels before and they've had trouble. We can all tell you that we've all had the swear days. It didn't stretch. Every problem that there is, we've had. So we have kind of worked out, we found that if we use distilled water rather than soft water or hard water, it stretches better.
And I'm a preschool teacher, and your little ones would love the leftovers to play with. They love this.
And they eat it.